Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Damascus Radio, and it's time for our news for tonight. Joined by Khalid Saqbani and Basim Bagdash. Minister of Justice Najm Hamad Al-Ahmad stressed that the internally generated solutions are the only way out of what the country is facing now, based on that the solutions reflect the Syrian citizens' visions for a better future. The minister's remarks came during a seminar held yesterday by the Bar Association under the title International Terrorism Between Politics and Law, with the participation of a number of Arab and Syrian lawyers at the Sham Hotel in Damascus. He noted that combating terrorism is connected with a solid chair on cooperation in all fields, including the legal one. The minister referred in this regard to the issuance of Terrorism Law number 19 for the year 2012 and the establishment of Terrorism-Related Crime Court by Law number 22 for the same year, which has actually begun its work. On his part, Minister of Information Amran al-Zabi stressed that the Syrian state will not change its stance towards going for a national political dialogue that does not exclude any party. He underscored that there is no connection between the concept of national dialogue called for by the state and what is happening on the ground in terms of the armed forces' pursuit of the terrorist groups. Minister al-Zabi said, those who seek the halt of military action want sabotage and desecration of the Syrian cities and towns to continue. He drew a distinction between confronting terrorism and launching political dialogue, as the latter will contribute to back the security and military efforts towards repelling the mercenaries, the armed terrorist groups, and Al-Qaeda members. Activities of the political forum organized by the coalition parties of the National Progressive Front, or the NPF, and National and Progressive Powers under the title of Political Dialogue and National Reconciliation, Path to Restore Stability and Security, kicked off on Monday, that is today, at Damascus-based Damaroz Hotel. The two-day forum tackles the topics of political dialogue, the army as the shield of homeland, combating terrorism, rejection of foreign intervention, national reconciliation, and protecting the state. Khalid?
Thank you, Basim. A unit of the armed forces killed today scores of terrorists and destroyed 5 Dushka-equipped cars and a mortar in Khan Raslan in the Kerm al-Jabal area of Aleppo. The terrorist Hamid Marwan Qassab, a leader of an armed terrorist group in Al-Sukkariya neighborhood in Aleppo, was arrested after he was injured by the gunfire of the Syrian army. Meanwhile, an army unit killed 6 terrorist rocket-propelled grenade shooters and snipers in the Sha'ar roundabout area in the neighborhood, in addition to destroying a workshop for making missiles and an armored vehicle with terrorists inside it. 3 Dushka-equipped vehicles, 2 vans, and a center for training the terrorists were also destroyed in the same area. An armed force unit carried out an operation near the Hassan Bridge in Aleppo's countryside, resulting in the death of Ali Muhammad al-Nabhan, a terrorist group leader, along with his entire group. An official source said that the operation also resulted in the destruction of Nabhan's Dushka-equipped car, adding that a number of terrorists fired rocket-propelled grenades at the town of Hassan, whose people welcomed the army forces. In Damascus's countryside, a unit of the armed forces eliminated a group in the Zabdin town, which is in Al-Ghouta al-Sharqiyya, that is in the eastern part of Damascus's countryside. On the other hand, the authorities killed many terrorists and confiscated large amounts of weapons and ammunition during clashes with the armed terrorist groups in Khan al-Shih and Al-Abbasiyya, in addition to Zakiya in the countryside of Damascus. An official source told the news reporters that the confiscated weapons included machine guns, rocket-propelled grenade launchers, anti-armor missiles, different sorts of ammunition, grenades, remote detonators, wireless communication devices, and some documents related to the terrorist groups. In Hamas countryside, a unit of the armed forces destroyed a Dushka-equipped car, and they killed a number of terrorists in the Zira village in Al-Qasir countryside of Hamas. The terrorist Abdul Karim al-Shami, a leader of an armed terrorist group, was identified among the dead. Another unit of the armed forces destroyed a Dushka-equipped car, and they killed a large number of terrorists in Al-Atifiya village in Al-Qasir countryside. In Daraa, a unit of the armed forces dismantled 60 anti-tank missiles and 18 explosive devices planted by the armed terrorist groups on the roads of Al-Kark al-Sharqi town in Daraa. The army unit also seized 4 mortars and a large amount of ammunition. An explosive device attached to a car went off yesterday evening at Damascus's police command parking lot at the Khalid ibn al-Walid Street in Al-Fahami area in Damascus, causing the martyrdom of one of the law enforcement members. An Interior Ministry source told the news reporters that the explosion took place in a parked car in the parking lot of the Damascus Police Command, or the Damascus Police Headquarters, causing the martyrdom of a law enforcement member and minor injuries, in addition to large material damages to the buildings and to the cars that were in the parking lot. Back to you, Basim.
Thank you, Khalid. Members of the Syrian community in Russia and the Russian people stressed once again that what Syria is facing today is a continuation of the war launched against it because of its national stances, its support of the resistance, and its rejection to submit to the domination powers. The comments came in an oratorial and artistic festival organized by the anti-globalization movement and the Association of Russian officers who formerly served in Syria, with the participation of the National Union of Syrian Students in Russia, marking the 39th anniversary of Tishrin, or October Liberation War. The speakers expressed confidence that Syria and its armed forces will achieve victory and eliminate the mercenary terrorists who are equipped with Zionist and Western weapons, thus dealing a strong blow to those who support them in America, Europe, and the monarchies of the Gulf. They stressed that the ferocious aggression on Syria aims to undermine the resistant national project, hailing Russia's stances in support of the Syrian people and their just cause against those who want to weaken Syria and destroy the infrastructure of the state. Head of the Association of the Russian Officers who formerly served in Syria, Valery Anisimov, awarded Syria's ambassador in Russia, Riyad Haddad, the Order of Alexander Nevsky in appreciation of his efforts in deepening bilateral relations between the peoples of the two countries. Hugo Chavez has won re-election as Venezuela president, scoring 54.42% of the vote, with 90% of the ballots counted on Sunday night. Head of the National Electoral Council was quoted by the Agence France Presse as saying that the opposition candidate Enrique Capriles obtained 44.97% of the votes. Chavez's opponents or proponents actually went to the streets and celebrated the victory, starting off fireworks while others published celebratory messages on Twitter. Reuters quoted the Venezuelan Interior Minister Tariq al-Aissami on Twitter as saying, "Perfect victory, the fatherland has won." The victory of Chavez can be attributed to the social policies he has adopted for 14 years, which focused on consolidating the role of the state and its social responsibility towards citizens, particularly in health, education, housing, and combating monopolies, not to mention his political stance against the U.S. domination. Back to you, Khalid.
Thank you, Basim. The Turkish war jets violated anew last night the sovereignty of the northern Iraqi airspace and bombarded a number of sites in it. In a statement, the military Turkish sources quoted the French news agency as saying that the Turkish war jets have bombed what the sources called the hideouts of the Kurdistani Workers' Party in northern Iraq, pointing out that at least 12 F-16 jets took off from the Diyarbakir military base and then targeted the Qandil Mountains and the surrounding area. The chairman of the Iranian Shura Council's Committee for Foreign Policy and National Security, Ala ad-Din Brojerdi, reiterated his country's protest against abducting the Iranian pilgrims by the armed terrorist groups in Syria, holding them responsible for their safety. During a meeting with the Turkish ambassador in Tehran today, Brojirdi said that the hostage-taking of the defenseless Iranian pilgrims violates the religious humanitarian values, stressing that it fuels tension in the region. Brojirdi called for the necessity of releasing the Iranian abductees in Syria, warning that Iran would respond similarly to any unusual action. On his part, the Turkish ambassador in Tehran said that seizing the Iranians is an inhumane act, stressing that his country will spare no effort to release them. Meanwhile, the Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Ramin Mahmanbest, on Saturday held the abductors of the Iranians responsible for their safety. The Libyan armed men who were on a boat in the Mediterranean Sea have intercepted the Italian boats and forced them under the gunpoint to sail to Benghazi port amid a case of chaos and insecurity that is being witnessed in New Libya. The Libyan daily, Libya al-Mustaqbal, said that the Nicole Cristaldi, head of the city council of Mazara del Fo in southwest Sicily, has stressed that the Libyan boat fired live ammunition and intercepted 2 Italian fishing boats, forcing them to sail to Benghazi. In a statement to the Sky TG 24 television, Cristaldi pointed out that the crew of the 2 Italian boats is comprised of 14 people of Italian and Tunisian nationalities. Now, ladies and gentlemen, over to my partner Basim for our final item for tonight.
Thank you very much, Khalid. Damascus International Fair opened its documentary pavilion at Damascus Citadel today. The pavilion will last till October the 10th. The pavilion includes a number of documents, images, and paintings, in addition to promotional, commercial, and cultural activities of several ministries and institutions. In a statement after the opening ceremony, Minister of Economy and External Trade, Mohammad Dhafir Mhabbak, stressed the importance of this pavilion as it documents the fair since it was inaugurated in 1954, adding that the pavilion reflects the advanced level of Syria industries. On his part, Director General of the International Markets and Fairs Establishment, Mohammed Samir Al-Khalil, said the idea of this pavilion was derived from the Syrian cultural memory, particularly the old city of Damascus, with the aim of shedding light on the role of Damascus International Fair in supporting the Syrian economy.
With this, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of our news bulletin for tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Damascus Radio presents News and Views.
Good evening to all of you. At the UN Security Council, investors in politicization and evasion. The big powers are boasting pits despite big downfall, drop on the gambling colonialist markets. At that Hippocratic international podium, Zionist-run stooges and their crusading uplifters are doing their utmost to blind the world's opinion in both eye and heart. Though what is just and true remains, they must remember and recite it by heart and mind, which is being done well right now. Truth, peace, and justice spur ahead unrepelled and undeterred. No go back. This surfacing of justice is manifested in a widespread process of shifts, changes, and eventualization, particularly in the Arab land, starting with Syria. These switches and shifts occupy the world public opinion, which demonstrate spreading inclinations to join up the battlefield in the ferocious fight against the neo-crusaders and their Zionist occupation entity, Israel. Their call-up accelerates the world vigilance on the destructive impacts left back by such powers in the Arabian land and beyond. The neo-colonialists and the Zionist supporters have all-time one sole objective. It is to destabilize the entire world while casting fear onto the rising vigor of the freedom fighters. And their ultimate target shows glimmering signals of spur ahead into the Arab world and its heartland Palestine, and the occupied Golan, which belong from pre-date history to Syria. Those hegemonial powers and the Zionist entity so-called Israel are nearing closer to the brink of war, only to sway on the fringe of collapse and oblivion, where their downfall will be deep and steep.
Damascus Radio presents Syrian Local Press Review.
Good evening, dear listeners, to all of you. The Syrian scene continues to occupy the front and inner pages and tabloids in today's local papers. Titles carry the following on the subject. The London-based Sunday Times admits 50 Britons join up the terrorists, and the New York Times reiterates the decision is to smuggle weapons owned by Washington, and the workout is carried by both Saudi Arabia and Qatar. In big letters, the local papers focus on terrorism as runs up. The armed forces purged the Damascus city zones Al-Hama and Qudsiyya and destroy 34 machine gun-mounted vehicles. They also kill scores of terrorists, among them 7 of the Jabhat al-Nusra in English Advocates Front. One element is killed in a car bomb at the main park of the Damascus Police Command headquarters. The metropolitan headquarters is located in Damascus. The front pages give prominence to quotes stated by Information Minister Omran al-Zoubi. He says the state's stand on national political dialogue will never change, and who carries arms is not from the opposition. These statements by the Information Minister have been delivered at Intellectual Legal Political Forum inaugurated in Damascus yesterday. It is sponsored by the Bar Society in Syria. Its slogan reads International Terrorism Between Politics and Law. Its premise is Al-Sham Hotel. Also addressing the seminar was Justice Minister Dr. Najm Hamad Al-Ahmad. In his speech, he stressed what has been going on in Syria during the last few months suppressed imagination and mind horizons of most of the political analysts and researchers, particularly when the sites subjected to violence to verify are actually havens to security. Other topics appearing on the front pages in today's local press read, the Venezuelan ambassador in Syria, Dr. Imad Saab, stresses the strength of the Syrian Arab army will make Syria emerge victorious. By the way, the quote is subtitled about Venezuela's presidential elections. The papers foresee much fortune for Chavez in the run-up. The Algerians bid last homage to former Algerian President Ashadili bin Jadid. Diplomatic sources reveal Qatar and Saudi keep on recruiting mercenaries from North Africa to dispatch them to Syria. Damascus is hosting at Dama Rose Hotel a political concurrence. Its banner is Politico-National Reconciliation sets way to security and stability. A celebrated editorialist, Deacon Dr. Amin Htait, zooms on the Turk-Syria border incidents. He writes under the title, Turkey of Erdogan between non-objectivists, chaos to additional losses. He writes, the head of the Turkish government, Erdogan, deploys fomenting highly disturbing noise and disorder under the pretext of a rash canister, upon a series of failures of which Erdogan has been stalked. Obviously, it was nothing more than outsway shell, the source of which is not yet revealed, nor the ones who ordered its launch. And what it caused of civilian casualties on the Turkish side of the borders are not yet counted, exactly as innocent civilians in Syria are slain at the hands of intruders who cross on via Syria.
Radio Damascus presents
listeners overseas. Prepared and presented by Randa Qaddura. Sound technician Hamdi Shweki. Kingdom of Mary. 120 kilometers south of this town is the site of the Kingdom of Mary, or Tel Hariri, near Abu Kamal. This kingdom dates back to the 3rd millennium BC. It was ruled by kings of the 10th dynasty after the flood. The discovery of Mary on 1932, like the recent discovery of Ebla 1975, attracted the attention of the archaeologists and researchers in various fields. 20,000 tablets with their cuneiform inscription recount the political and diplomatic life in these kingdoms. Many of the remains and relics, status, jewels, tablets, and stamps are now at the Damascus, Aleppo, Deir Zor, and Paris museums. Another archaeological site is at the intersection of the Euphrates and of the Khabur near Mayadin, Tel al-Ashara, where the ancient city of Taraqa, the capital of the Kana kingdom, flourished in the 2nd millennium BC after the fall of Mary. The wall that surrounded the city is one of the most enormous of the ancient world. It had a diameter of 20 meters. You have been listening to a new edition of the weekly program Listeners Overseas. Dear listeners and dear friends, if you want to write letters to Radio Damascus, please don't hesitate and write on the following address: Damascus, Syria, English section, Post Office Box number 4702, Syrian Arab Republic. Dear listeners, greetings from our sound technician Hamdi Shweki and also from me, Randa Qaddura, and we wish you to have a very pleasant time to all of you. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Damascus Radio, the broadcasting service of the Syrian Arab Republic. Before we sign off with the national anthem, here is a final look at the news summary. Minister of Justice Najm Hamad al-Ahmad stresses that the internally generated solutions are the only way out of what the country is facing now, based on that the solutions reflect the Syrian citizens' visions for a better future. Activities of the political forum organized by the coalition parties of the National Progressive Front and National and Progressive Powers kick off today at Damascus-based Damaroz Hotel. Turkish war jets newly violate the sovereignty of northern Iraq airspace and bombard a number of sites in it. Chairman of the Iranian Shura Council's Committee for Foreign Policy and National Security, Alauddin Brojardi, reiterates his country's protest against abducting the Iranian pilgrims by the armed terrorist groups in Syria. And Libyan armed men who were on a boat in the Mediterranean Sea intercept 2 Italian boats and forced them to sail to Benghazi port amidst chaos and insecurity witnessed in New Libya. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of our transmission for tonight. Until we meet again tomorrow at the same time and on the same frequencies, we wish you all the best from Damascus Radio, the broadcasting service of the Syrian Arab Republic. Good night.